Consult an advisor or conduct your own due diligence when making financial decisions. General principles discussed during this program do not constitute personal advice. This program is furnished by Dentist Advisors, a registered investment advisor. This is Dentist Money. Now, here's your host, Reese Harper.
Welcome to the Dentist Money blog on dentaleconomics.com, where we help dentists make smart financial decisions. I'm your host, Reese Harper, here with my co-host, Sir Ryan Isaac.
Hey there, Reese. I know you're excited for today's show.
You betcha.
Because we're going to talk about one of your favorite subjects, which is music and specifically the piano.
La musica.
La musica, as they say in Italian.
Piano.
In Russian.
I don't know what language or accent that was. Okay. But it is one of my favorite subjects. But it's one of your favorite subjects too, Rye.
It's true.
At least you were in a band.
I was in a band
See,
once.
And I wasn't ever really in a band.
Which I'm sure most people know.
Actually,
that's where they know me from.
I was in a two-man band that never really saw live stage time.
Really?
Yeah. But
what were you called? I don't think I knew this.
Last Boy Scouts.
Seriously?
Yeah, we had like a gig. We had like one or two shows. Anyway,
this is not in the script, and this is awesome. The Last Boy Scouts?
Cree, if you're listening, we had a good run. It was a great run together.
Okay.
So just so you know, the band broke up.
Okay.
We saw a little bit of stage time. And
the limelight.
Cree went and got his PhD from Chicago.
Oh, the math guy.
He's an economist now.
Oh, yes.
And I went into finance. So music and finance have deep roots.
They do. They do.
And I think it's a natural transition.
We both made the transition.
You'd be surprised how many people are in finance that have music roots.
There's the creative brain side to it.
That makes sense I mean, the mathy side, I don't know.
It makes sense. But you haven't let go of the roots completely. You actually have, in your desk upstairs, you have the slide-out drawer and the piano keyboard that comes out. You can play every once in a while. Yeah.
We just occasionally we'll play a tune.
If it's a good week.
Depending on the day, what day the market goes.
Yep.
We got Dow goes up 100 points. You'll hear maybe an optimistic jazz tune.
Okay.
And if it's a decline, we'll have a little blues riff.
All right.
Going on.
Well, you recently let me talk about CrossFit on a podcast, so I'm going to let you talk about pianos today.
But I'm not going to rant about pianos for all you haters out there.
Like stop talking and get to the finance stuff. Okay, this is
a related issue, people.
Yeah, we're going to relate something here. You're going to teach us what goes into crafting a high-quality piano, and in the world of pianos, let's start there. What are the best brands? Give us some education.
For all of you dentists out there who moonlight as concert pianists, there's probably a few of you.
It's a big market.
And if you're in the market for a top-of-the-line piano, you're going to want to look at something like a Steinway or a Bosendorfer. Steinways get made in New York, and Bosendorfers are made in Vienna. Those are probably the two of the highest-end ones.
That sounds classic.
And you've probably heard about a Bosendorfer, or heard about Steinway, but you probably haven't heard about the Bosendorfer.
I've never heard the Bosendorfer.
Yeah. There's some European pianos. There's a lot of really high-end European pianos.
Okay. And how are they made?
Well, they're not mass-producing these things, Rye.
Not the Bosendorfer.
Now, if you're getting a mass-produced piano, what they're doing is they're trying to limit they're Steinway and Bosendorfer. They're trying to limit the volume of pianos they sell every year. They're focusing on quality, not volume of production. You'd probably be surprised at how many pianos they make in a given year. Some manufacturers will make hundreds. Some will make tens of thousands, and some will stay, less than 1,000 or in even the low hundreds.
Really?
Yeah. So you can't really make a great living off of 100 pianos a year.
Well, what does a Bosendorfer cost?
Yeah, you'll see there. That's when you get to your north of $100,000, kind of for a starter piano.
Starter Bosendorfer.
Yeah, I mean, even and Steinway's got their best pianos are definitely north of 100,000 too. And so that's your kind of range.
Okay, so this is interesting. So what are some of the things then these high-end piano manufacturers will do to make a better piano?
Well, like a cheaper piano, like let's say a mass volume piano, like a Young Chang or a Kawai, you'll see a lot of those that are. What they'll do is the cheap pianos will cut their soundboards, this piece of wood that's underneath the strings. They'll cut them in mass quantities. They don't really shape them in any way that's specific to the wood that was cut. So each soundboard in a cheap piano is just like there's a bunch of these soundboards that are cut, and you just kind of shape the piano around this mass-produced soundboard.
That's the foundation of the piano?
It's the wood underneath the strings.
The main, okay. They build it around that.
Yeah, and so that's the kind of the main resonant thing that makes all the sound bounce off it, so you can hear anything.
Okay.
But then, a higher quality manufacturer will shape the soundboard to match. They'll shape the whole piano to match the soundboard, and they'll carve the soundboard specifically to the wood that they had for that tree. So
oh my gosh.
Anyway.
Okay, so they're probably making the high-end ones only maybe one at a time, and they're kind of adapting to the subtleties of each piano and the wood and the characteristics of the materials they've got.
Yeah, they're going to custom shape the rims, which are the pieces of wood that encase the piano, so that they're not just the rim itself isn't just one mass manufactured piece. They'll put together each action individually, and actions like the key and the hinge and the hammer that strikes the string. That's called an action. So each key will have its own action constructed specific to that key, and it'll be tuned to that range in the frequency. Jeez. Anyway, things you don't really think about.
No, ever. I would have thought the Yamaha was just fine for my house.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do today, natural segue into this.
Yeah.
But this did have a point.
Yeah.
Because what we're going to do today is compare the value of a well-crafted piano to the value of a well-crafted financial plan.
Yeah, I think this is a good pay attention, people. This is worth your time here, okay?
Okay.
We're getting into some quality.
All right.
Yeah, and maybe a good way to set this up is to say that some of the mass-produced piano brands are still pretty good, right? I'm not a total snob. I don't have enough money to just blow on a high-end Bosendorfer without thinking about it. So like if you're just learning to play, or if you have some decent experience, a Yamaha is going to work just fine for you, or a Kawai. Now, if you're an accomplished musician, you're playing in concert halls, and you're at a point where you know how much pressure to put on certain keys to make the hammer hit the string just right, then you'll need a piano that does justice to your skill level.
Okay, so the argument then that we're making for dentists is that in the world of wealth management, you're among the more accomplished financial class, top 1% of income earners in this country, according to latest studies.
Yeah.
You're dealing with more complexity in your situation, so you need a financial plan and an advisor that does your situation justice. So an out-of-the-box kind of one-size-fits-all plan isn't going to be the answer for you.
Right. No matter how skilled the financial advisor is, if he or she doesn't have the ability to make those nuanced, quick adjustments to your financial plan, the outcome won't be as good. And some advisors, they just don't have a set of tools to help them do their job the right way, and they depend entirely on feedback from the client. So this doesn't allow for adjustments to be made quickly and on a regular basis. So overall, the performance just won't be the same. And it's not uncommon for a financial advisor to gather information from a client right during a client meeting.
That's pretty typical.
Yeah. Or over phone calls, instead of being prepared for those meetings in advance. And so instead of using that time to make really calculated and nuanced decisions, the client and the advisor are using the same time just trying to get on the same page.
Yeah, and what you're saying is if all you're doing is having conversations and meetings instead of making decisions in those meetings, it gets pretty inefficient and it can slow down your progress. Plus, what ends up happening, and we know this from experience too, when you sit down and meet with a client, the majority of the meeting is talking about the things that are kind of top of mind for the client, right? Rather than some objective data that you're trying to work on. So we're going to stay with the piano theme then. We're going to get into some good parallels to wealth management that we can use. So hopefully that's okay with everybody.
Yep.
Right? You've alluded to it a little bit, but let's talk a little bit more about piano materials specifically.
Yeah, and how those relate to financial planning. So a piano has a ton of moving parts and components, and even the high-end manufacturers, they're not making every piece of it. For example, there's a company called Renner. They build these action components that I talked about. There's the key and the hammer and the action. And
Renner Action Company.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Let's just call it that.
Renner. Okay. All right.
And then, but then Steinway or whoever the piano maker is, they'll reassemble those parts to meet their own specs. So they'll take these action components, they'll reconfigure them and arrange them to meet their own specifications, which might be more rigid than they come out of the Renner factory, or in a slightly different configuration so that they strike the string differently or have a little bit faster action, or, a lot of people reassemble them themselves.
Interesting. So you could have two different pianos with Renner actions, assuming that Renner is the brand of brands.
A good brand.
It's a good action brand.
Yeah.
but they won't necessarily perform the same because they've been altered or installed differently depending on how the piano manufacturer itself reassembled and installed them.
Yeah, exactly. That's true in the world of financial planning and investing too. That's probably a really close parallel. You can't just say, "Oh, that both of those investment firms use Vanguard," or both of those firms use iShares funds.
They're an index shop.
Yeah,
they use index funds.
Okay, and somehow that you assume that there's no difference now between the two firms. And the more competent the firm, they're going to reassemble a portfolio to be more closely aligned with a client's situation, and the outcomes are going to result in higher expected returns, lower capital gains, reduced trading costs, and better rebalancing. And they're going to look at new cash flows and deposits differently. So don't get confused by trying to put all pianos into one box and say, oh, but it's a baby grand.
Okay, well, what about servicing a well-built piano? Because I'm sure even the best pianos, they need routine maintenance.
Yeah, they do. And even the best pianos, you have to get a little TLC here and there. And so because you invest in the quality up front, the maintenance is less invasive. And it's easier to adjust to maximize performance. See, anyway.
You don't have to bust out the hammer. Is that what you do? You bust out a hammer, start banging away on the keys, or jackhammering?
Yeah.
Assuming that's how you fix and maintain a piano.
Okay, on the nicer models, it's just less of an overhaul. It's more of like an adjustment because everything's constructed so well that you can fine tune it. You can use more tools to fine tune it, and you have more options on how to arrive at really specific sounds that you're trying to get.
And so if you don't maintain a piano, I'm just kind of curious, if you don't maintain it frequently or periodically, or you bought a cheap one to begin with, what's the maintenance process like? Is it like a big overhaul every time?
Well, yeah, because
new keys and strings.
Like if you've got one, you guys probably have those pianos where someone out there has got like every 6 months the thing sounds like it's like broken.
Yeah.
It's just so out of tune. You'll have an upright that's just been slapped together.
Yes.
And you're like, the tuner gets in there and he's like, oh, it's because you're like, your hammer's like fallen off, or your strings are like disconnected, or you've snapped a string, or, no matter how tight you try to stretch a string and get it back into shape, it just loosens and it doesn't stay in place because the knobs are just cheap. And
so it's like an emergency repair every time. Everything's a big, huge fix.
Yeah, it's always broken.
It's the same thing with a good financial plan that is well designed and maintained right from the beginning. Over time, you will avoid the headaches and the pain that comes from big financial setbacks, and you'll have the right context to make big financial decisions too.
The bottom line is, if you invest in something that isn't a quality, if you invest in a mediocre financial plan, or you have a really cheap slapped together product, like over time there's a ton of maintenance that can come with that. You have to replace cracks. You can replace the whole freaking soundboard. That's really expensive to do. You got to take the whole piano apart now. But anyway.
Okay. So what this means for a dentist, though, is that a good financial plan should incorporate things like the value of the practice, your profitability in the business, tax rates, investment returns, risk management, insurance, a lot of other things. And if you don't have a strategy that addresses all of these on a regular basis, it can cost you a lot in the long run. Yeah,
good financial plan has to take into consideration more than just like an investment or insurance product.
Right.
Yeah, or just like one meeting that you had. And I think that's a good thing we should talk about next, is this idea of settling in with time. It takes a lot of patience to build a good piano, and a grand piano rim, sometimes that's the thing that goes around the soundboard.
Like the sides of it?
Exterior, the sides of it.
That's what a lay person would call it.
The sides?
Is that the sides, Reese?
So that sometimes they have to sit around for months after they're bent so that they can even be worked on further. And they're probably like 12,000 parts in a piano, like if you break them all down, that require different amounts of waiting time. Even the strings get stretched in stages. You don't just like stretch a string and
put it on.
It on, and the wood needs to sit and shape, and then left there for months at a time. That soundboard has to be treated sometimes for a really long time.
So you can't just take the strings and put it all in one pull. You can't just give the strings a couple little tugs and call it good.
This is science, Ryan.
Okay.
You can't rush it. And the same goes for financial planning. You can't just put a plan together really quick and expect it's going to work its way out the way you want to. It's a really long-term process. You have to regulate it. You have to review it. And you've got to allow things to sit and develop naturally before rushing to conclusions. You want to put a thoughtful plan together and then gradually help it take shape rather than just forcing the issue. And that happens a lot with financial planning,
Yeah, well, it does. I'm just thinking of how often that does actually happen. I think the expectation a lot of times is to hurry and do things. People, they get in trouble when they try to speed up the process of building wealth or creating a good investment plan and philosophy by trying to time the market or put a bunch of money into a risky investment to, hit that home run. So the investors, though, who come out ahead are the ones who let their investments work for them over a long period of time, and they're not expecting immediate, results.
Yeah, you have to give your strategy some time to play out. And I think it's really important to make sure that financial advisors don't rush to conclusions on the recommendations they give to clients. You've got to know their client's personality. You've got to know their financial behavior over time, the decisions they've made historically, the things they tell you, are they really accurate? Are they a reflection of biases that you might have as a dentist? And I think that a good financial advisor really doesn't just rush to conclusions on all the recommendations that they make. They like to give a recommendation, let the client sleep on it for a week, see if they feel the same way, come back to it in a few days, and then make sure that you're on the same page. And I don't know, sometimes it's just scary to see how fast people slap things together and move on.
Well, yeah. How often have you seen with clients the right answer be to just kind of wait on things?
Yeah.
Sit and think about it and wait and let things develop. That's totally true. Let's talk about the workers for a minute, the people that put the pianos together.
Totally.
I want to know who these people are.
Yeah.
They probably take a lot of pride in what they do, especially these higher end manufacturers.
Yeah.
I imagine there's a big difference then between the assembly line worker at whatever mass manufacturer and then the piano builder at Steinway or Bosendorfer.
Yeah, there's a huge difference, and probably in the level of pride and satisfaction they have in their job, but also the skill level that they bring to the table. Because the Steinway craftsman or craftswoman is super highly trained, and because of the enormous investment that the company makes in training, they're willing to pay a lot to employ these people over many years. And the best companies, they have really good training programs that move people up the ranks and create a lot of skilled replacements so that there's always backup when people are out or when they need people to rise up to the next level of service in the company. So
yeah, of course there's a cost that goes along with employing people at that skill level. I assume.
It's another reason you're paying more for this type of piano. The people aren't just following instructions, they're more focused on the outcome. So they're given a lot of autonomy, right? They can use their own judgment to make decisions about each piano as well. And for example, there's a person in the assembly line called a voicer, and it's their job to make sure that the tone from a particular set of hammers sounds the right way, that they like the tone. It's a little bit subjective, and it's specific to a manufacturer, the tone that a manufacturer is trying to get out of a particular soundboard or model of piano. And that voicer in a high-end factory has got the authority to replace components in the action to make the voice fit
on individual pianos specifically.
And at a lower end factory, every employee in the assembly line isn't even skilled enough to make those decisions, and they're not given authority to make those kind of adjustments. So those flaws, if there are flaws in the piano along the assembly line, they're not identified until it's clear down the end of the assembly line at the end of the construction process, at which point it's too late or too expensive to really justify the change. And so that's where you get your lower end quality.
Interesting. So you're saying then that all financial advisory firms that are not created equal, the quality of workers or advisors, analysts, administrative staff, they have a big effect on the quality of the financial plan and the speed at which a dentist can build wealth.
Yeah, every step of the way. And I think dentists can relate to this. If you hire an associate, it's nice to have someone with experience. You can trust them to exercise good judgment and adapt to the needs of each patient. It's also nice to have someone who's going to recognize when preventative treatment needs to be done so that you can avoid a more painful and expensive procedure down the road. And it's nice to see for us, like as patients, when a dentist hires that type of support staff and admin staff to build really solid processes within the practice. And I think we try to do that same thing in our firm. And I think that's really important when you're looking at a financial advisory firm. If you're hiring one person, you don't have a really good set of checks and balances. And if that one person doesn't have a solid administrative staff or an analyst staff to really catch, and there's no process, then there's no way there's not enough opportunities to catch fine tuning and quality control, along the line. And so,
well, it's nice to have a firm with skilled support staff, as a Bosendorfer assembly guy would be.
You're a Bosendorfer.
Would I be a Bosendorfer?
I think that's the right place for you.
Okay.
There's a lot more bald people over there in Vienna.
See, let's end it on that. Is that we're gonna wrap this up? Are you gonna play us a little song on the way out?
There's no piano.
There's no piano here.
We can't do that, folks. But
okay.
let's leave them with a few questions.
Okay.
So think about this: do you have a financial plan that you can make sense of? Does it make sense to you? Can you explain your financial plan to somebody else? Do you have an advisor who can help you make quick adjustments when things are out of tune? And is your plan molded to your specific situation, or does it feel more like a mass-produced model? Maybe another question that's important is, did you pay for expertise, education, and knowledge, or did you simply buy a product as your plan? I think those are really some good thoughts.
That's a great place to end, and we will look for the upcoming album and possible tour of, what was it, The Last Boy Scout?
The Last Boy Scouts.
Okay, The Last Boy Scouts.
There's an opening in the band.
Really?
There was 2 and 1 is gone.
There's only
one
2
remains.
guys. There's always openings in The Last Boy Scouts. All right.
Tryouts next week.
Okay, well, thanks to all our listeners for joining us. Remember, leave us a review on this podcast. If you'd like more information, follow us on Facebook. Or visit dentistadvisors.com. You can sign up for our newsletter or schedule an appointment on our calendar. We also have our phone number on the website. Give us a call. We'd be happy to chat.
Carry on.